Supplier create page. Supplier edit page and supplier graph page. Page 4. Supplier graph page. So there are the 4 pages available in this supplier information app. And we need to create, first we need to create the DB objects. We need to create the DB objects. We need to create the DB objects. So DB objects means business. We need to create the business objects. Not DB. You can mention business objects. Supplier business object. Supplier business object. So in the supplier business object, so here we need to display supplier division on supplier side. So this is the first screen, right? In the first screen, supplier data will come here. And if you want to create the new supplier, click on this button. It will go here. If you want to press the create supplier, it will go here. So there you need to enter the data: supplier name, supplier started, amount, division, and site. And when we press the apply, this data will be saved into supplier business object. So end user will select any row here and press on edit supplier. Will go to this screen. So when we press the edit supplier, the record of what you have been selected here, that record will come to the screen. So edit supplier means whichever the record you have been selected, that record will come to the supplier edit screen. Okay, and we required 3 business objects in this total application. Graph also there, delete also there. That we will discuss when we start the development. So delete means the related whatever the record you want to delete, that you select that, it will delete. Graph means supplier division wise. Supplier division wise, how many suppliers are there? Supplier division wise, how many suppliers are there? For example, one division, supplier division, one supplier division, accounts. Accounts division, how many supplier count is there? Finance division, how many supplier counts are there? Software division, how many supplier counts? That count you need to display in the supplier graph page. So total 4 pages are there. First page is the display page. Second page is the supplier information, supplier edit, and supplier graph. So here onwards, we need to start the development. First, we will see how to create the supplier business object. Second, supplier side business object. Third, supplier business object, supplier side, and supplier division business. Supplier business object, supplier side business object, supplier division business object. We need to create the 3 business objects. So till here, any questions you can ask me is the requirement and everything. So requirement wise, you have any question you can ask me guys. In the supplier business objects and supplier side business objects, so we will create the supplier business objects and supplier side business objects using Excel sheet. So client will give Excel sheet data, supplier business object and supplier side. So based on these two, so we have 2 tabs are there, supplier and supplier sides. So normally we have created the business objects in the last classes. manual approach, right? So now this time we will create the business object using Excel. Client will give the Excel data and say that create the business object like that. So how we can create the business object using this option, supplier and suppliers. Using the business objects, how we can create the, or using the Excel, how we can create the business object. Let's do this one. If you see this Google Builder, click on supplier. Okay, let's create the supplier info. Supplier info. Supplier info. Change them. Okay. Supplier info. Click on in the supplier info app. Go to the business object. Go to the business objects. Data manager. Go to the business objects. Data manager. Go to the business objects. Data manager. So there is an option called import business objects. Import business object. So this file you can take, upload, upload. Hmm? So in the supplier business objects, we have 8 records exist. Supplier side business objects, we have 13 records exist. Hmm? Click on upload. Okay, so I think it is uploaded already. Click on next. So the name suppliers and supplier sites are there, right? So these sheets, whatever the names are there, right? Suppliers and supplier side. With these sheets, it will create the names like that. And if you would like to change supplier business object, supplier side business object, you can change like this. Supplier business object, supplier side business object, you can do like this. Click on next. Hmm? In the supplier business object, we have a fields. Supplier side business objects, we have a this fields. So whichever the columns you want to make the required, you can make that here. Click on. They are not required. Just ID column is required. Just ID column is required. Supplier side business object. Click on finish. So what will happen when I press the finish? Supplier business object will be create and supplier side business object will be create. You can finish. So data import when successfully close. So this is the way you can create the business objects through Excel. And same as usual, guys, supplier business objects, the extra fields are there, right? The extra fields like created by creation date, ID, last updated by this will be created by default. Even though you upload the business you upload the Excel sheet as a business object, it will be created like this, creation by creation date and this. Supplier business object, go to the fields, it will be like this. So any questions, guys, or you want to show once again how to create the business object using Excel?
No, one check.
Okay. Now, after you create the business object, so now we will create the supplier division business object. Supplier division business object using manual approach. Supplier division business object, we can create manual approach. Supplier division, click on business object. Supplier division business object. Supplier division supplier. Click on create. Click on create. So in the supplier division business object, we will create the name as division name. Supplier division. Supplier division name. Supplier division name. Create field. And create one more field that is called target. So that's this is the number. Target supplier. Okay. So let me note down the steps. So this we can create using Excel. Create using created using none. So how many fields we need to add? Supplier division name, supplier division name, and supplier division name on target supplier. So next step is we need to give the supplier side and supplier division name in the supplier business object. So whatever the supplier sides are there, this data and supplier division data, we have to give the reference in the supplier business object. Supplier side name and division name. Supplier side name. Supplier side name. Give the reference in supplier business object. Even give the reference in supplier business object. So why we have to give the reference in the screens, whatever I have shown, right? In the screens, whatever I have shown, Here supplier division and supplier side. Supplier division and supplier sides. Data should come from the supplier division. Data should come from the supplier division business object. Supplier side data should come from the supplier side business object. The supplier screen. So the first screen, the second screen, create supplier screen. When you create the supplier, the user has to select the supplier division data from the supplier division business object. Supplier side data should be selected from the supplier side business object. So we need to give the reference. We need to give the supplier site name and supplier division name. Data should come from this. How we can give the reference? That I will show you now. The supplier business object. The supplier business object. Let me write like supplier business object. Supplier business object. Give the reference. Supplier business object. Give the reference of supplier name. Supplier business object. Give the reference of supplier name and supplier division name. Supplier business object. Give the reference of the supplier name and supplier division name. Give the reference of the supplier name and supplier division name. The supplier business object. Give the reference of the supplier name and supplier division name. How to give the reference? So go to supplier business object. Go to supplier business object. Click on field. So you write like the supplier site. So there is an option called this reference. There is an option called reference. If I click the reference, it will ask which business object you want to have a reference. Go to the supplier site and which field you want to have a reference. Country or city, whichever the field. I'm taking the okay. You can take the country. That means supplier side the field in the supplier business objects. The data of the supplier side will be referred in this column in this column into this field in the supplier business object. Understand, right? Supplier site name data should come from the supplier side business object and this column. This column data will be mapped to this field in the supplier business object. Create one more field. Supplier division name and give the reference supplier division business object like that. And add some sample data in the supplier division. Add some sample data in the supplier division business object. The supplier division business object data supplier division name counting target supplier finance target supplier supplier division IT target supplier and add some sample data in the supplier division business object. At this moment, any question you can ask me. Sample data in the supplier division business object. In the supplier business object, in the supplier business object, supplier business object. In supplier business object, add the approved column. Approved column. By default, when we create the supplier, approved column value should be by default when we create the supplier, approved column value should be false. Data type is Boolean. In the supplier business object, add the approved column data type. Add the approved column data type is Boolean. By default, when we create the supplier approved column value, that means when we click the apply, so approved column approved column value should be false, because so we cannot approve the supplier if it is not approved. When we cannot approve the supplier, if the supplier is approved, if the supplier creation mode, in edit mode only we have to do the approval. Understand, right? So what do you go to supplier business object? In the supplier business object, create upload. So you mention here as Boolean create field. So in approved business object, so there is a option called set the default value. If they set the default if value not provided, set to default if value not provided, click on false. Set to default if value not provided, put the false here. Set to default if value not provided, put the false. Understand or not? Guys, I said in the class Monday or today, last class.
Bro.
Huh?
Today.
Today or
Today.
okay. Someone in the group said Monday. Okay. Set default value. Set default if value not provided, false. Okay, so this is the so what will happen when we create the supplier if we are not entering any value for the supplier screen? So the value will become as false. Okay, so this is one thing you have to remember. And one more thing, in the supplier division business object, supplier division business object, we have to supplier division business object. Supplier division business object, we have to supplier division business object. We have to create one more column, that is count. Supplier count. That means one division, one supplier division. Only one supplier will be there or multiple suppliers will be there? One supplier. One supplier. Or maybe one supplier department, division or department. One supplier division or one supplier department. So it may be multiple suppliers, right? So multiple suppliers, right? So one supplier division or department. So we will have multiple suppliers. One supplier division or department will have multiple suppliers. So that information, that multiple suppliers count we have to get. So how we will get the count? Because you remember we already given supplier division difference in the supplier business object, right? So listen carefully, guys. Here a little bit tricky to understand this one. So in the supplier division business object, click on field aggregate. Okay, field supplier count. You can mention the number here. Supplier count. You can mention the number here. Create field. So in the supplier count field, okay, in the supplier count field, aggregate from related business object. Use this option, aggregate from related object data. So what do you mean by aggregate from related object data? If I click this one, so we already given the link supplier division business object in the supplier business object, right? So now what we will do, we'll get the count. That means whenever supplier created with this name, for example, I am creating the finance division in the supplier business objects, finance division, like that. I have created the supplier name is AST. Yes, supplier name is BST. Some names. Now AST, BST suppliers. What is the division? Finance division. Now this will be get the count. How many counts are there now? AST, BST division. This division we have it. Two counts are there. Finance division we have two counts are there. That two count value will be come into this field. So that is called supplier division name business object reference. We already given, that is the reason. So we are getting the count of the supplier. How many suppliers are there with that division? So that count it will be print in the supplier count field. So why it is required? This required in the graph page. Save aggregation. So when we discuss on the graph page, that time I will explain more on this. When we discuss on the graph page, that time I will explain more on this supplier count, why we have created. So this when we discuss on this screen, I will explain more on this, why I have created the supplier count. Okay. So for this, we have created business objects, DB related things, guys. Now we need to design the screens. So total 4 screens are there, guys. Total 4 screens are there. So we will see one by one how we are going to develop these screens. So next class we'll see them. Any questions you can ask me.
Vamshi, those fields will be given by the client, which we need to add in between.
Yeah, 100% client will give, please. Yeah, I'm working on one of the real-time project. I will show you.